All right. Ooh, it was an aggressive one. It really jumped at you there. It went crunchity crunch.
It was a crunchy one.
It was crisp. It was crisp like biting into an apple. My goodness.
Very much so.
So
All
you were
right.
just telling me, Chris, that you have a can of Lil Heaven from
Little
Two
Heaven.
Roads. Lil.
Little Heaven.
Lil Heaven.
Two Roads. Right? Two Roads is right over there in where is it?
Stratford.
Oh, Stratford? Right, that's right. Stratford.
Yeah, I think it's the Honey Spot Road exit off of 95.
Well, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah.
Honey?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. I always remember the name of that exit because it's such a, it gives you such an image, a honey spot, a sweet little name, sweet little
Yeah.
word. I like it. I
And
like it. It's fun.
then you just follow your nose
Yeah, you just follow your nose.
to the two roads.
Yeah. Follow your nose down the two roads and enjoy some great beer and seltzer and all that fun stuff. Food trucks. Hey, mom and dad.
There's mom and dad.
Mom and dad are out there tonight.
Yeah, in the house.
They are in the house. Well, we had a lovely, kind of a smaller FUMFA Live social little meetup yesterday. A week ago was the New York City Poetry Festival, where I got to spend a lot of time with one of our readers for tonight, Tanya Kohang, and that was absolutely delightful. We'll have to chat a little bit more about that. Later, maybe in the Q&A. But this week we stuck closer to home. We met up at Nod Hill Brewery once again, except it was at the grand opening of their beer garden. And wasn't it lovely, Chris?
It was a beautiful, perfect day. The beer garden it couldn't be nicer, and there were tons of people there, and food and
doggies. Yes. So we're hoping to hang out there again, and all y'all out there should come. If you are within any kind of, distance of Ridgefield and willing to come on over, hit us up. We'll meet up there at that beer garden almost anytime.
Yeah.
So nice. And yeah, we had, I think I had 3. What were those? What was that size? That was
It's a pint of.
It was a pint.
It's a pint, yeah.
It was a pint. Oh, I had 3. Oh my God. I guess that's impressive for me. I hardly used to drink at all, years ago.
Well, you had to wash down those tater tots.
The tater tots. Yeah, Chris and I shared some tater tots. There was great food at food trucks there, and the lobster roll food truck had a side of tater tots, a large, robust container of tater tots, just perfect with some beer. In my opinion, at least, it was pretty fun. Yeah. It was pretty fun. We had a good time. And so that was good. And hopefully we'll get to do some more fun little outings and special events later this month. It is now August. Happy August, everyone. And hopefully in the fall as well, we can do some special things and perhaps even have an in-person reading or 2. Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
That'd be something.
Yeah, it's in the works. It's in the works. We're thinking about it. We're talking about it. Absolutely. We're trying to, see what we can do about it. And yeah, Chris. So I can't believe we are at this point in the summer. It's flown by. It already, it's just 8:00, but it's not quite as bright anymore. Right. And I don't like this. I need summer to keep on going, Chris. I need it.
It's true, but I find readings to be more stimulating in the evening hours when the sun is going down or has gone down.
Yes.
And you enter that kind of dreamlike state.
Oh, yes.
Hear people read their poems or stories,
Mhm.
and it's kind of dark outside, and you kind of leave your own surroundings and kind of go off.
You
So
know, I
I'm
love
okay
that
with it getting
description.
darker, but
Yeah. You know what, Chris? Yeah, and that's why we kind of move our readings a little later, not just because people are home a little bit later in the evening on Sundays, but also because it's kind of like that evening feel. You're settling in, you're ready to listen, you're ready to engage more with the literary reading.
bedtime stories,
Bedtime stories. Yeah, think of it that way. You don't have to be on screen. You could be anywhere in your pajamas right now, in your bed, ready to drift off after the show, of course. Well, it is 8 o'clock, so it's time to give our official welcome to FUMFA 61. We have with us tonight Barbara Crooker and Tanya Kohong, two incredible special guest poets. Barbara Crooker is a returning reader. She was with us on the memorial night for Kim Bridgeford. But today, of course, is a much happier occasion, a regular reading where she will feature for about 25 minutes. We'll get to really hear a lot from her amazing work. And then after that, we will get to hear from Tanya Kohong, my buddy from the New York City Poetry Festival, and more importantly, an incredible Korean American poet writing in Korean and also in English. And she'll share a lot with you. I'm excited for you to get to meet her if you don't know her, and to hear her amazing poetry. But Chris, what else do we have coming up in the upcoming weeks?
well, next week we have Beth Tillman from the FUMFA family.
Nice.
She's a current MFA. What do you call that when you're going for your MFA? She's an MFA candidate. It's been so long since I was one. Yes, candidate sounds, fancier.
I like candidate better as well, Chris.
That's right. Beth Tillman will be here, as will Laurel Peterson.
Hey.
Poets. And then the following week we have Rosalind Stevenson and Ezra Lovecroft. As we know, he gets the award for
Best name award.
coolest name. Then we got Jerry Johnson and Sally Nacker, also from FUMFA, who has a new book out. And then it's vacay time for a couple of weeks.
Yes, we'll be taking a little sort of 2-week vacation before we get into our fall series. And now it's not up yet, but later this evening or tomorrow when I get to it, but a survey will be going up, and we want you to be a reader on the live stream on FUMFA Live. We would really love to have you. And we want to collect people's interest in reading for the fall season. We will have feature spots. We will have open mic nights, theme night readings, perhaps even an in-person reading. And so we want to know your interest in that. And we would also like to collect your bio and all of that information kind of up front and a little bit early if possible. So watch for that survey. Don't be shy and share your interest with us, and hopefully we can add you to our upcoming fall season.
Where can they find that survey?
Well, they will be able to find it.
Where will they be able to find that survey?
I will post the link on Facebook. We'll send it out to the FUMFA alumni email list later in the week. But please find that link on Facebook when it goes up later tonight or tomorrow. Also, we'll put it on Instagram, but you got to do a little, maybe a copy and paste thing, or I'll set it up so you can just click it and it'll be easy. Okay.
Hey, that is awesome.
Yeah. Well, Chris, we need to introduce our first reader of the evening. Oh, hey, first of all, we got to say hi to Midnight. Hey, Midnight.
You got to say hola
She says hola.
Midnight Curtis.
Yes, and hello to everybody out there watching from Facebook and YouTube. If this is your first time watching, please follow us. We have incredible readings. This is our 61st reading. We've had 100 and something amazing authors, writers, poets.
100 and
How many?
more than 125.
More than 125 incredible readers, most of them with at least one published book.
Individual writers. That doesn't count people who've read twice. That's anybody who has been on is counted there. Yes. Oh, Bernie Biner is on it. Oh, Bernie.
Hey, please follow us. Please, respond to that survey as soon as it goes up, and enjoy the readings tonight. Let's bring Barbara Crooker up here. Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Welcome. It's good to see you again.
Great to be here. Thanks for asking me to come.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So let me introduce you with your bio. Barbara Crooker is a poetry editor for Italian Americana and author of 12 chapbooks and 9 full-length books of poetry. Some Glad Morning, Pitt Poetry Series, University of Pittsburgh Poetry Press 2019 is the latest. Her awards include the W.B. Yeats Society of New York Award, the Thomas Merton Poetry of the Sacred Award, and 3 Pennsylvania Council Fellowships in Literature. Her work appears in literary journals and anthologies, including Commonwealth, Contemporary Poets on Pennsylvania, and the Bedford Introduction to Literature. She's been on the Writer's Almanac 50-some times. Amazing. Tracy K. Smith's The Slowdown, and featured on Ted Kuzer's American Life in Poetry. Absolutely incredible. We are honored to have you, Barbara. We'll leave you to it.
Oh, thanks. I'm delighted to be here. So I was looking through, what was I going to read to you folks tonight? Because I've published around 1,200 poems, and that's a lot to choose from. And I decided to let Facebook kind of be the guide, the randomness of what have I had, what poems have I had that I've posted on Facebook recently. So that is going to be a very eclectic mix of poems, new poems, old poems, poems from books, etc. And I hope you enjoy them. Right now, the height of summer, to me, the best thing, hands down, about summer is BLT sandwiches. So this poem starts with a quote from Warren Zevon, who was talking to David Letterman about his terminal lung cancer shortly before his death, and he said, "Enjoy every sandwich." BLT. Here's how to make a great sandwich. Country white bread, lightly toasted, contoured with mayonnaise, leaf lettuce spilling over the borders, overlays of tomatoes, train tracks of bacon leading straight out of town. No need for road maps, potato chips, or pickles. Yes, winter is waiting just over the horizon. But right now, I'm going to sit in the sun and listen to birdsong. I'm going to eat every crumb, every plottable coordinate now while I can. Now, among my interests are ekphrastic poetry, ekphrastic poetry, which is a fancy word for poetry that has a conversation with a work of art, and it's usually a painting. And I have a whole series, it'll be a section in what I hope will be my next book, on painters and what they were working on later in their lives. So this is from that series, Late Painters, Matisse. And here I have an epigraph from Matisse, papier découpé, its form filtered to its essentials. And I'll tell you, painters have the best quotes. It's so wonderful to use those as epigraphs. When his hands could no longer hold a brush, Matisse turned to paper and scissors, painting with cold metal, carving heavy wash like a knife through butter, shearing shallow reliefs. The liberation of image from paper. And my left hand, too, betrays me, mysteriously cramping twisting like a snail in a shell. No relief but to pry my fingers back into the shape of a normal hand. And so the dance goes on. Confined to chair or bed, Matisse's second vie lasted 14 years as he learned to use white as a negative space, working paper like a sculptor, cutting through stone. This is where I'd like to be working, reducing the buzzing, complicated world to its pure essence, ridding myself of arabesques and complexities, summing up the dance of my life in simple forms. And while I thought that there was no relief or nothing to be done from this weird cramping, I'm going to get a shot in my neck this week and see if that helps it along. Got to try everything, right? Okay, this next one is an older poem. I think my mother has been gone for about 10 years. So this is an elegy to her, but I'm using something fairly simple that I think everybody can recognize: sparklers. We're writing our name with sizzles of light to celebrate the 4th. I use the loops of cursive, make a big B like the sloping hills on the west side of the lake. The rest, little a, r, one small b, spit and fizz as they scratch the night. On the side of the shack where we bought them, a handmade sign, trailer full of sparkles ahead, and I imagine crazy chrysanthemums, wheels of fire, glitter bouncing off metal walls. Here, we keep tracing in tiny pyrotechnics the letters we were given at birth, branding them on the air. And though my mother's name has been erased now, I write her name too, a big swooping I, a little hissing S, an A that sighs like her last breath, and then I ring, bell, 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 in the sulfuric, smoky dark. Now, I always wanted to stop with a marker and correct that trailer full of sparklers, and I'm the kind of crazy person that has a pen and does that in the grocery store when they misspell something or they put in an apostrophe just to be fancy. Right. You can see me coming a mile away. How the trees on summer nights turn into a dark river. How you can never reach it, no matter how hard you try. Walking as fast as you can, but getting nowhere. Arms and legs pumping, sweat drizzling in rivulets. Each year a little slower, more creaks and aches, less breath. Ah, but these soft nights, air like a warm bath, the dusky wings of bats careening crazily overhead, and you'd think the road goes on forever. Apollinaire wrote, "What isn't given to love is so much wasted, and I wonder what I haven't given yet." A thin Kama moon rises orange, a skinny slice of melon so delicious I could drown in its sweetness, or eat the whole thing down to the rind. Always this hunger for more. And more actually was the title of one of my books, divided up into chapters of different things we'd all like to have more of. And right now we're having a huge thunderstorm outside, but my tomatoes are loving it out in the garden. And I have one little cantaloupe plant and it's got 4 big melons on it. And I can't wait. All right, so this one is more topical. This was written last summer in the height of when everything was truly awful. And I'm not convinced that we're out of the awfulness yet. The title of the poem is also, it's a title of a poem by Emily Dickinson. So I am using it as my title with attribution. And I found a wonderful quote from Patrick Modiano, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature from Italy. I wondered if there were going to be any more summers. It will be summer eventually. It will be summer eventually, but not for several years. No ice cream trucks, no baseball games, no jostling crowds that cheer. No blankets spread upon the sand, no gaily striped beach towels, no breezes full of salt sea air, no surfers in the swells. No amusement parks, no midway lights, no hot dogs, cotton candy, no fireworks dazzling on the 4th, no children getting sandy. The fireflies will decorate each tiny blade of grass, and the moon in July will flood the sky. Someday this will pass. Until then, may tomatoes swell until they fit your hands. May peaches fill with juice and sun in mason jars, gold bands. I don't know how it is where you are, but where I am, the local amusement park can't get enough workers, and so they're having to close 2 days a week in the height of their season. I keep telling my daughter, who just turned 50, that, you know, that job you had when you were 14 at the waffle stand? Come on home, honey. They're waiting for you. Okay, now this one is also kind of timely. Aphorisms at 70. Now, when becomes if. The horizon starts to lower. You realize you have a sell-by date, and the deer are always going to win the battle of the garden. You will never become reconciled to losing friends. You are not going to lose the weight from that last baby or finish your reading list. Still, red wine goes with everything. There is always chocolate. Spring never gets old. You don't need a partner to dance. And I think I especially resonate with that in the sense that it was all these years and I finally found my sport, and it's Zumba. And you don't need a partner to dance when you do Zumba. Okay, so this one is an older poem, and it's going to take you back, I don't remember how many years, 15 maybe, when there was a comet that we could see every night. And I had some time at VCCA, which is an artist colony, and it's very dark there at night. And so when you're walking from your room to the studio or back, it was nice and dark, and we could see the progress of the comet every night. It was Comet Hale-Bopp, and it was just amazing. Rapture. Peepers, tiny tree frogs, punctuate the night, their small song a promise of spring's return. Overhead, the stars tap out their ancient stories, and a comet appears out of the darkest reaches of space from somewhere past Pluto. The last time it came by, the great pyramids were being built at Giza. Roman Athens were still centuries away. Hunter-gatherers roamed the Illinois Valley, and the Inuit followed the rhythms of muskox and caribou. Now in the new millennium, we are bombarded daily with more information than we can process. The endless noise of television, more bad news than the human heart can stand. Standing here alone, under the blackboard of night, away from any ambient light, everything I know falls away. And I'm back around the campfire, looking up at sparks, flying in the dark, seeing the comet every night for weeks. Its glowing heat, the luminous tail 30 million miles long, streaming and pulsing like smoke from a single candle, a diaphanous scarf, the breath of God. I am standing alone in this black night, feet on the ground, mouth open, breathing in stars. And we've lived in the same house for, about 45 years, and I've never had this happen until a couple of years ago. And this poor bird, and you'll see why I'm calling him a poor bird, and it's happening within the context of the poem. American robin. Here's that bird again, launching from the rhododendron, banging his forehead on my living room window. Thump, thump. Does he see his own reflection in the glass, or does he see a rival, a threat to his nest? I hang a black raptor silhouette in the middle square, but that does not deter him. Knock yourself out, I keep thinking. Next, I try cardboard, then a sheet of newspaper smeared with its terrible news. He comes back. Do I admire him for his persistence or shrug at his stupidity? Thunk, thunk. Today, I read how fast the glaciers are melting, the seas are rising, the Amazon is on fire. We know what needs to be done, but won't do it, and no amount of warning seems to make us change our course. Up ahead, the hard reckoning, the implacable glass pane. So it's really an interesting, or not so interesting, situation to find myself in, and I'm sure there's others like me, a lyric poet primarily, but you can't just write little nature poems right now when everything is fraught with, we're teetering on the edge of major ecological disasters. And so I feel like what I'm writing is really kind of a hybrid of a lyric, political, or eco poetry. Maybe somebody else has actually coined this as a term. I don't know. I just write them, but it's a Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times, and I really wish we weren't. Okay, this is going to go off in a totally different direction. I was very fortunate in that I'm the mom of an adult child with autism, and we spent many, many years raising this boy, and we finally got him a spot in a group home. And I just felt like we had to do something to mark that. And so we went on a trip to Rome, Florence, and Venice. And I called it the Victory Lap trip. And so here's one of the poems from Venice. Were we in Venice, or was it a dream? Did we see palazzos, villas, churches floating on their own dreamy reflections, the material world rendered immaterial? Bridges, domes, spires, roofs, all illusory. No land, just water. The Musman called it half fairy tale, half tourist trap. Did we really ride on water, vaporetti, gondole, traghetti, eat squid in its own ink, sepie al nero and polenta, listen to Vivaldi in an old church, stop to see the moon rise over the Accademia Bridge, eat 2 gelatos a day, take a boat in the laguna, that flat, rippleless dreamscape, to an isola where they pull molten glass like taffy, swirling it into petals, garlands, mia fiore. Or visit Burano, fishermen's cottages painted in an arcobaleno, pazzo, garish red, bilious green, screaming yellow, electric blue the sky would be embarrassed to wear. Nothing solid, not buildings, but the doubles of buildings shimmering on the canals. Was this conjured by an enchanter? Each night on our hotel terrazzo, we had a spritz, Aperol, or Campari, garnished with orange chunks, pineapple slices, cherries, a libation, and a daily fruit allowance, all in one glass. The sky is rubbed smooth, smudged with pinks and blues of an abstract pastel. I am wearing hand-blown black earrings spangled with gold, the night sky in each ear. I hope I never wake up. And I will just point out that my outfit came from Burano, from a stall. Couldn't even really try it on. I kind of put it on over my clothes and said, yeah, this is my color, I'm buying this. And okay, so I said we were going to jump all around from the sublime to the earthy. This is a poem about compost. And now as writers, we get all of our communication pretty much electronically. But in the old days, we used to get our rejection slips in the mail. And let me tell you that there is nothing more satisfying than ripping them up into little pieces of paper and putting them in the compost. And during the many years, it honestly took me 25 years to have my first book. When it seemed like it was going to be posthumous, I was chatting on the phone with my friend Paul, both of us bemoaning our lack of success. And I said, yeah, but you know what? I've got really good dirt. Building a compost pile is not unlike building a poem, making something out of nothing, turning straw into gold, garbage into loam. Take what others would throw out, eggshells, apple peels, coffee grounds, newspapers full of cumbersome verbiage, banana skins, grapefruit rinds, grass clippings, and add to it daily. If it seems like nothing's happening, you're wrong. In the dark, heat and pressure build, things begin to break down, add up. Turn, aerate, let it breathe, add water, add worms, add eye of newt and bacteria. It's earthy as a river, it smells like a stable floor. Are those critics I hear typing away or crickets in the corner of the woodpile? How do you know when it's done? Well, you don't. You just abandon it, to misquote Paul Valéry. But scoop some out, moist and dark as a chocolate torte, black gold. This compost, this humus, it's a richness you can never get enough of. I'm going to try to squeeze in one more short poem. My wish for you. Tomorrow, there will be sun, scalloped by clouds, ushered in by a waterfall of birdsong. It will be a temperate 75, low humidity. For 24 hours, all politicians will be silent. Reality programs will vanish from TV, replaced by the snow that used to decorate our screens when reception wasn't working. Soldiers will toss their weapons in the grass. The oceans will stop their inexorable rise. No one will have to sit on a committee. When twilight falls, the aurora borealis will cut off cell phones, scramble the internet. We'll play flashlight tag, hide and seek, decorate our hair with fireflies, spin until we're dizzy, collapse on the dew-decked lawn and look up, perhaps for the first time, to read the long lines of cold code written in the stars. Grazie, thank you.
Brava, brava.
Gorgeous, brava. Yeah, that's what we should be saying. Oh, Barbara, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous poem. So deeply felt, so beautiful. I was on a journey in so many places, and just so wonderful to kind of get to know you a little better through your reading. And just so wonderful to hear you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, and everybody, put your questions in the chat for Barbara, or formulate them in your mind for when we have our Q&A at 9. Anything you'd like to ask about what she shared or about her, just incredible poetry. Barbara, how many poems was that again?
It's a little over 1,200.
Woo! Barbara! I love it. I love it. It's fired in so many ways. That is awesome.
I'm old, what can I say?
Doesn't sound like there were too many rejection letters going in that compost based on that, but gee.
No, definitely. I mean, really, 25 years of rejection slips for that first book. Seriously, yeah.
25 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, easily. Yeah.
All right, Barbara. Well, then we can learn from you and be inspired quite a lot. All right, Barbara, thank you so much. We will see you at 9. Let's bring up our second reader of the night. We are so excited to welcome Tanya Kohang. Hi,
Tanya. Hello. How are you?
So good to see you.
So good to see you.
Yeah, we had the best time hanging out at the New York City Poetry Festival.
Oh my goodness, it's so fun. Yes.
It was so great. It was so great. And it was also so wonderful to hear you at the Norwalk Arts Festival when that was the first time I got to hear you read and when I got to meet you.
Yes.
And we are really honored to have you with us tonight. Chris, will you do the honors of reading Tanya's bio?
Of course. With apologies, I hope I don't mangle anything.
Tanya, perhaps you can help us pronounce the beautiful Korean titles.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we're Tanya Kohong. So then we have your Korean name, right?
Yes.
Which is pronounced
Hyunhae.
Oh, that's exactly how
Hyunhae. That's what exactly you wanted to say. I know.
Hyunhae.
I'm sorry to
stop
you there.
I need all the help I can get. Anyway, Tanya is an internationally published poet, translator, and cultural curator who champions bilingual poetry and poets. Born and raised in South Korea, she immigrated to the USA at the age of 18. She is the author of 5 books, including The War Still Within, came out in 2019, Mother to Myself, a collection of poems in Korean, came out in 2015, and selected for one of 25 reading lists for the 5th Korean Diaspora Literature Essay Contest by Lit Korea. That's the Literature Translation Institute of Korea in 2021. Her poetry appears in Rattle, Beloit Poetry Journal, Entropy, Cultural Weekly, WSQ, which is Women's Studies Quarterly, from the Feminist Press, many places. She's pursuing a PhD at Pacifica Graduate Institute and holds an MFA degree from Antioch University, Los Angeles. Tanya's work has won the Yeondunju Korean American Literature Award, Kowon's 10th Literary Award, was a finalist in Frontier's Chapbook Contest, and has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize. In 2015, her segmented poem, Comfort Woman, received an honorable mention from the Women's National Book Association.
Amazing.
So, and there's much more that you can read on our website here, but we want to leave time for Tanya to read her poems. So everybody welcome Tanya Kohong.
Welcome, Tanya.
Oh, thank you so much. I cannot believe this is like amazing that could be with you guys today. And so Chris, I planned to what I wanted to read, but like sometimes it get changed. So I think that this is gonna be really important me to read the gap poem first, because yes, I came here when I was 18. So when I went to school, and then a lot of times when teachers or like kind of stop when they go into the attendance name, like a high school, they call the attendance every day, and they kind of stopped, and I knew that was my name, Hyunhae. So then I changed the different names to fit what am I going to fit in my name. So that Tanya is not, the name that my parents gave to me, but that I choose. And so I wrote poems in Korean first for a long time. And when I went to college, I won the contest, the poets contest in Korean, so that I win. You don't know, but like to become a poet in Korea, you have to win the contest, or you have to get nominated or something. So you actually have to get the license to be a poet. So then I was reading my poems in Los Angeles, and then go and read my poems in Korean. And then my college friends came with me, and then they said, hey, I love to hear Korean, but I wanted to hear English as well too. What do you write? And then I thought, ooh, how do you translate poems? It's just really different. And so I thought, I think the poetry is like a very intimate language. It's like I describe that, like, what do you feel? Like, I feel like it's almost like a poem is like very vulnerable. It's like opening up your heart. And then through the poem that you could read their hearts. So sometimes you don't want to show that, right? But anyway, so I said, okay, while I was translating my own poems, I found out myself like there's big gaps in me and myself. When when I wrote in Korean, that was different meaning, but when I translate into English, that becomes totally different language meaning. So I thought, let me just write what's going on with me. So I wrote this poem called The Gap. Gap, gap between Hyunhae and Tanya, gap between Seoul and Los Angeles, gap between rice and bread, gap between kimchi and salad, gap between my natural skin and my covered skin, gap between my mother tongue and my second language, gap between my inherited blood, my transmitted blood, the gap between me and my other self. And then, so the reason I did it, I said, ooh, this is kind of fun. I like to do some kind of art with it. So I said, I'm going to make a triangle. So I did a triangle. And then when I translate to Korean, it becomes upside down triangle. And it sounds like this. 현해와 타냐 그 사이의 갭. 서울과 로스앤젤레스 그 사이의 갭. 밥과 빵 그 사이의 갭. 김치와 샐러드 그 사이의 갭. 4살과 덧붙인 겉살 그 사이의 갭. 모국어와 그 사이의 갭. 타고난 피와 수혈된 피 그 사이의 갭. 나와 또 다른 하나의 나 그 사이의 갭. So then it just become upside down triangle. So as an immigrant, or I don't know, many people know different languages and live in different culture, that you feel kind of awkward in a lot of times. And then when you speak in one language and you become different person. When you speak another language, it just becomes another person too. So for saying that, like I wanted to share another poem. It is called, I'm going to read the Korean first. It is called something, but because I'm gonna just like read it first and then let you feel what I want you to just feel sort of, okay, what is the other language? When I hear another language, what is going through in my mind? I just want you to experience that. 둘째 시간, 어두운 방으로 불려갔다. 창이 없는 미세스 로페츠가 그림책을 보여주었다. 강, 내가 말한다. 틀렸어. river라고 그녀가 말한다. river, 내가 말한다. river가 아니라니까. river, 그녀가 말한다. 그렇게 말했어요. river, 강이에요. 그녀가 고개를 흔든다. 내 입을 봐. river. 그 후로 나는 입을 다물었다. And you might say, what is sort of like you kind of feel like there's something called liver, what is it? So it say, second period, I am called to a little dark room, windowless. Mrs. Ropech showed me a picture book. 강, I say. No, river, she says. Liver, I say. Not liver, it's a river, she says. That's what I said. River, 강이에요. She shook her head. Look at my mouth. She says, oh, river, I say, then shut my mouth. I just wanted to give you 1 second. Just breathe in. And think about friends or your neighbors, whoever, that English is not their mother tongue and they would have a hard time to speak some kind of pronunciation. And now you understand. Sometimes you try so hard, but it is really hard to speak like a neighbor. So this poem is called American Dream. Lunchtime over. The deli is like a cemetery. I weigh salad on a scale, punch numbers on the register. 12 hours a day, standing for my hungry stomach. What about the dream of America? Don't dare to ask this question. Once, waiting to be a somebody, wore me out, deplete my soul. No more. Invisible like a ghost, obedient like a selfie, deaf as a Grand Canyon rock. Who am I to you, America? And this is poem, The Gazella of Moonshine. I want to dance like her on a crowd floor. I want to wreath in music, guiltless as a child. I want the internal blood circulating like a hollow. I want to dance like a rising sun in Death Valley. I do not want to live like a shadow. I refuse to numb my dragon heart. I do not want to please like a lotus on a pond. I refuse to remain a fingerprint on your thigh. Remember, the dancing ends at the midnight. The red snake may bite your neck, while your pomegranate cheeks still burn. And you might never get home. I want to keep dancing. Dance through the war. Generation of dark matter. The flame of my feet will burn. Through I will dance like a raven on sand dune. And so I'm gonna just read two poems from my Korean book. And this book, as Chris say, that like this is like in the picture as like the one of Korean diaspora book. And if you read this book and then write a essay, and then you could win the contest, and then deadline is August 31st, so you could spread it out people that who knows Korean. That would be great. So what I just read in English, this is how it goes in Korean. 가셀라의 문샤인. 물속에서 춤을 추는 여자처럼 춤을 추고 싶어. 천상의 아이처럼 자유롭게 음악에 몸을 맡기고 영원한 피가 원강처럼 비치는 죽음의 계곡에 떠오르는 해처럼 춤을 추고 싶어. 삶의 그림자 속에 갇혀 살고 싶지 않아. 불같은 내 가슴을 차갑게 만들고 싶지 않아. 연못에 피어나는 한 송이의 연꽃이고 싶지 않아. 너의 다리에 남겨지는 체온이 되고 싶지 않아. 기억해. 12시에 음악은 멈추고 너의 볼이 빨갛게 석류처럼 달아있을 때 붉은 뱀이 너의 목을 물을지도 몰라. 어쩜 넌 영원히 집에 돌아갈 수도 없다고. 그래도 난 계속 춤을 추고 싶어. 전쟁을 헤치며 겹겹이 쌓여있는 어둠. 뜨거운 화산에 발이 되어도 나는 죽음의 계곡, 모래 언덕 위에서 춤추는 까마귀처럼 춤을 출 거야. So that was the Gazella of Moonshine. And I think I'm gonna just read one more poem. And usually I never read this title poem. This book is called 나는 나의 어머니가 되어 Mother to Myself. Even this poem that I wanted to share with you, that is like, I mean, mom is like we thinking about the universal theme, and then the love is universal. But the way of showing their love is very different. And Korean mom is, every mom is, a lot of moms the same, but like sharing a lot of foods, carrying the food. But I raised 3 kids, and as a woman, I think we need to take care of ourselves as well too. And we learn sacrifice is a virtue. But yet, if we don't take care of ourselves, who's gonna take care of you? So this is the poem, Mother to Myself. We all have to be mother to ourselves. So this is a poem that I wanted to share with you. 나는 나의 어머니가 되어 바쁜 아침 아이들이 학교에 들어서는 뒷모습을 보고 돌아와 어수선한 부엌에 서면 엄마가 그립다. 엄마가 차려주시는 밥상이 그립다. 기름기 자르르 흐르는 흰 쌀밥에 가시 발려 올려지는 생선구이, 따뜻한 국 한 그릇, 아이들이 먹다 남기고 간 프렌치 토스트, 메이플 시럽에 찍으며 어머니를 기다리다 나 일어나 햇살 한 줌 씻는다. 남편 주려고 얼려놓은 생선을 녹이고 아이들을 주려고 끓여놓은 국을 데운다. 나는 나의 어머니가 되어 내 부엌에서 나의 밥상을 차린다. 고소히 익어가는 밥 냄새, 알맞게 구워지는 생선, 따스히 덮여진 국에 불을 끄며 나는 나의 어머니가 되어 아직 어린 내 영혼을 먹인다. So this is like a translation goes like this. I am not like fully fun with it, so I'm still editing this translation, but here it goes. Mother to myself. I am busy taking care of my children in the morning and dropping them off at school. Standing in the messy kitchen, I miss my mother, who prepared food for me. Over the fire, well-cooked sticky white rice with white fish on top and a nice warm bone soup. Instead, I dip leftover French toast in cold maple syrup. While cleaning up the kitchen, I stop dead and ask, what am I doing? I grab a handful of new rice, throw the mackerel I saved for my husband, and warm the chicken noodle soup meant for my children. In my kitchen, I usually become my mother, who wasted nothing and ate all our scraps. But now I am cooking for me, broiling fish, a smell of cooking rice. After warming the noodle, I turn off the gas stove. So I wanted to give you permission for ladies, cook for yourself and well taking care of yourself. And so last part, that is my anchor poem, is called Comfort Women. I am not going to read the whole thing, but I think it is very important to give you of the background. So this is the cover of my book, and then you may see the big picture of behind me, and this is the word still within, and this is the Comfort Women, took the picture 1945, and yes, this how do we know this is a Comfort Woman? And actually I wanted to share another picture. Her name is Park Yong-shim, and she's holding this picture, original picture, and then she witnessed that she is this pregnant woman, 1945. And our Comfort Woman Park Yong-shim was born in 1921, and she passed away 2006. So this front cover image is like a cropped and then tamped of black and white photography, and my publisher took that, used the picture from U.S. National Archive, and this is like actually what is wrong with that was they printed that it's a Japanese prisoners in that picture, but actually that's not Japanese prisoners, they're Korean comfort women. And what is a Korean comfort women? They were among the few survivors of sexual slavery, forced upon estimate about 200,000 to 300,000 women by Japanese Imperial Army during World War II. So that is background of my cover page. And also, why am I wrote this poem? I didn't know about the comfort women myself. But while I was writing poems about women, I just crossed the one of the article about that, and I said, "What is this?" And then I saw so many pictures, and I couldn't really sleep. And another just really sad was they couldn't say that I was a comfort woman after the war is over. First, the women came announced that I was a comfort woman was actually 46 years later. The person name was Haksun Kim, and August 14, 1991 in South Korea, she came out say, "I am the comfort woman." The reason I watched her last interview said, she said she was scared to say it when she was young, but then she cannot stand anymore to hearing the lie that we came to be their slaves. That is not correct. So she wanted to talk about her truth. And unfortunately, she didn't get apologized and she passed away in 1997. So, I am going to read the first part. So I used a monologue of different comfort women's voice in my poem, and I'm gonna just read three parts. 1991, Seoul, South Korea. So this is sort of like a background why she came out saying that I was comfort woman. The voice on TV is comforting, like having a person beside me, talking all the time while I in my burnt rice grill. Suddenly in Japanese, but we didn't. Those women came to us for the money. We never forced. I dropped my spoon into my lumba. On the screen, a photograph of young girls sit in open truck, like the one I rode with the Sinja over the rice field road years ago. 3 a.m. Waking in a cold sweat, I glove chariki, barka, barka, but my throat still burns. I reach for a cigarette, and the white smoke spirals, like a Sunja's wandering soul. They call me Wiambu, a comfort woman, but I had name. 1941, that autumn. Autumn night, Japanese soldiers wielding swords dragged me away while I was gathering pine needles that fell from my basket, filling the air with the scent of their white blood. When you scream in your dream, there's no sound. On the maru, Grandma's making songpyeon, asking Mom, is water boiling? Will she bring pine needles before my eyeballs fall out? I feel pain there. They put a long stick between my legs. Open up, open, bakkajusenji. They rage, spraying their sperm. The smell of a burning dog, burning life, panting, grunting on top of me. Under my blood, I am dying. 1943, Shanghai, China. One night, a soldier asked all the girls, "Who can do 100 men?" I raised my hand. Sunja did not. The soldiers put her in boiling water, alive and fed us. What is living? Is Sunja living in me? 1991, 3 a.m. That night, the thousand blue stars became white butterflies through ripped rice paper and flew into my room. 100, 1,000 butterflies, endless white butterflies going through the web in my mouth into my unhealed red scars, stitching one by one. Butterflies lifting me, heavier than death. Butterflies opening my bedroom door, heavier than shame. At dawn, I stand. So that is the part in Comfort Women. And then to honor, I am reading just last part in Korean. 1991년 새벽 3시. 그날 밤 나는 꿈을 꾸었다. 찢어진 창호지 틈새로 보이던 수많은 별들이 하얀 마비가 되어 내 방으로 들어온다. 1마리, 100마리, 1000마리. 수많은 하얀 나비들은 거미줄을 찾은 내 입을 열어 내 안으로 들어가고 있었다. 내 몸속으로 들어가 아물지 못한 빨간 상처를 한 뜸 깨맨다. 나비들이 죽음보다 무거운 내 몸을 일으킨다. 나비들이 주역보다 무거운 내 문의 빗장을 열어 이 새벽에 나를 깨운다. Thank you.
Oh, Tanya, thank you so much. Oh my God, just absolutely gorgeous, heartbreaking, so incredibly powerful and important. What you just shared with us about the Comfort Women, your gorgeous and powerful and very important poetry about them, and also just the poems that you shared in the immigrant experience as being a mother, just incredibly gorgeous and powerful stuff, and how special to hear it in English and also in Korean. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you.
I love it when we hear poetry in different languages. We can hear both of them back to back. And wow, it's amazing how somehow, weirdly enough, even if you don't understand the language, you get the
you feel
the vibe, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know you guys can't see the live chat right now, but people are just saying thank you, Tanya. That was so powerful. My family actually did not know. My parents did not know about the Comfort Women, and it's such important work you're doing through your gorgeous poems.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And also, you just gave us this incredible story of your life. I just felt like I was sitting in your apartment with you, and I think that is such a special treat about our live stream, that we get to do that. We're kind of in your home with you.
I love the visual aids too, like the charts, almost like, that was so fun to read the Gap poem. Yeah. That was great.
Thank you. This is this is like my first English poem that I wrote.
Wow!
Because I was translating I'm doing translating and then writing first poem.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my God, there's huge gap in myself. So that's why I was trying to make a triangle. And then I translate in Korean. And it wasn't triangle. So I said, oh, aha.
That is so interesting. And you can see how the triangle flips and your world is flipped upside down. So cool. Well, everybody out there, audience, let's just give another round of applause to Barbara Crooker and Tanya Kohang. Incredible readings tonight by these incredibly prolific special guest poetesses. I mean, it was absolutely incredible work from both of you. It was just such a richness that we just enjoyed in the last hour. And it's a real honor to have you here for our Q&A time as well. So everybody, please put your questions in the chat. We will put them up here for Barbara, for Tanya, for both of them. But we usually get started with a little question that I like to ask about we started our live stream when quarantine lockdown first went into effect in March 2020. How have you been doing as a poet during this time? What have been some silver linings of maybe online events or your writing schedule, and maybe what has been challenging? How have things changed? And how have you been doing with that? Maybe Barbara, we can start with you and then go to Tanya.
You probably shouldn't have asked me in that. I was doing all right. I was working in gardening and writing and living a quieter life, but it was okay. And the ability to have audiences through Zoom was terrific, really. In October, my husband had a heart attack, aneurysm, aortic dissection, and stroke, and was in the hospital for 6 months, and I couldn't see him because of COVID. And I did take him home. Yeah, I took him home for a month and cared for him. I became a nurse. I had to. We ran out of Medicare money. And then he passed away at the end of April. So it's just been a very, very difficult time. Very difficult.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have asked. Yeah.
Well,
this is the first reading I've been able to do. I had to cancel on you before because he was in hospice in the last weeks.
Understandably so. We are so sorry for your loss, and we are also so honored to have you here with us tonight. And it was incredible to hear your poetry and to hear you talk a bit about your husband and those incredible Italy poems and that wonderful adventure, and also to hear a bit about, kind of that experience of COVID and these things that aren't happening right now that we can all share, that is sort of almost like a universally healing poem, in the midst of your own individual difficult time. We feel for you, Barbara, and we're sending you love and strength.
Thank you. It really made me realize how few other things you really need. I'm okay with a stripped down life.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Thanks, Barbara.
We heard that a lot in terms of just the isolation and the lockdown and everything from a lot of writers who, some of whom as writers thrived, despite the challenges. I mean, you, of course, had extra, terrible challenges to deal with, but a lot of people, while they, when they were healthy and alone and able to write, were happy for the opportunity to be alone.
To have a little extra time. Time alone.
We're introverts. It's okay.
And then and then you can have a little bit more of that time and not quite feel so guilty about spending more time with your poems or dreaming on your own. But absolutely, we've heard some interesting answers to these questions, and we definitely understand that this has been a painful and tragic time, kind of in the midst of all of that. What about you, Tanya? How has it been going? How have things been different for you?
So actually it begins like that. First of all, Barbara, thank you for sharing your heartbreaking story with us, and we're sending you so much love. And I am really speechless what you had to go through. But thank you for sharing. And for me, it was really disappointed at the beginning. The reason was I was doing my PhD, and then one semester finished, and then I was ready to go and sharing like a book publishing party and all these like readings, like signed up and like, okay, I'm gonna do the 100 readings. So actually like all the like lined up like for my like reading, and then I was gonna do the book tour and all that kind of stuff, and then shut down.
Yeah.
And so, but like after shutdown, and then we start doing the like a Zoom, right? And then I read it at once at Paris Lit Up in Paris, and then they reached me out, and then they goes, Tanya, we're gonna go Zoom live with you, like to be a feature. So I said, okay. So then you gotta send me like a recording and send it to us, like it starts like March 30th. And then so I said, okay. And I thought I was empty nester at the moment. And then so I said, yeah, that's what, like I said, I'm going to go book tour, and then I'm going to do whatever I wanted to do. But pandemic, so my kids all came back.
Full mess.
That's like a full house again. And I said, oh no. Anyway, so we did a recording, and then I sent it, and then I said, hey, I did it once, and then why not? So like a National Poetry Month. So 2019, and then my big mouth, I said, okay, from April, I'm gonna just do the poetry reading one a day, and then I'm gonna post it like in the Facebook, like the YouTube. Oh my Lord. So actually I did it. I did it every day in April. And then I said, oh, my poem has a lot of food. Why don't I show the food? So like now it become a cooking poetry.
Tanya, you got yourself into all the online stuff.
I know. So, and then after that, like, so then like a lot of like Zoom reading and all that kind of stuff, right? A lot, like all the plan. But it is really different, Zoom reading and in person. So then I got asked myself, I mean, I live in Los Angeles, but like I said, I've been like waiting for a really, really long time that want to be a artist in New York City for like my long time dream. And a lot of people say like, why? Like you could have like a little room, made up in yourself. Yes, like I made up my room. And then my son came, Mom, can I use your room for my study? Because I need solicitation, solitary. Okay, Mom. So like, and I think like, Barbara, I don't know if you could relate to me, but like so many women could relate it. And then even the book that we're reading, like a lot of books, you have to have like your own room. So anyway, long story short, I made that happen. So now I have a studio in New York City.
Woo!
And I am doing, this is like what you see, my studio, my artist studio, my writing studio. And I am adjusting. So like that, like here, I am committing myself to be a writer and artist. And then when I'm here, just like my poem, that I am feeding my soul.
Yeah.
And I think I am, I don't know. I mean, that's how we met too.
Yeah.
And, like, when Jerry was like, and then I said, like I could go. And then he goes, I thought you're in LA. So I said, at moment, I'm in New York.
At the moment, I'm in New York.
So I love living in person. And then we met. We have to meet in New York Poetry Festival as well too. So I am just like, I mean, it's just like, it's just creative juice is like, feed me, and then so wonderfully. And I don't know, but like, I'm just thank God for a moment that I could do it. And then I could be, I feel like being real. I think it's very important that we should be real.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I am so being real to myself. You understand?
Being
like real to
authentic.
myself. Authentic.
And I think you're kind of taking this opportunity to live this dream. And who thought at the beginning of the pandemic, when you were canceling all these readings for your brand new book, that kind of eventually you would find this presence and this voice online so strongly, and then that you would kind of have your house fill up and then say, you know what, it might be good for me to kind of live this dream and take this space and have this moment while I can. And I think that is really cool, Tanya. That is so neat. And that's, I love hearing this interesting mix that a lot of people have said, certainly so many things have been difficult. Absolutely. Tragic, incredibly challenging during this time. But in some ways, there have also been these really interesting opportunities that have come up, these interesting, silver linings. And that's why I kind of start with that question. It can be, it's a tough one, but I have another question for you.
Yes.
There is a question in the chat, but I have a question for both of you, and then we'll get to the one for Chance, from Chance out there. Hey, Chance, I really want to ask both of you. You are both incredibly prolific poets, lots of published work, and I would love to hear just a little bit about how did you get into poetry? Did you always write? Were you a reader as a child? Did you have someone who really encouraged you to get into it? Barbara and then Tanya.
Sure. Well, that's it. You got to be a reader. You got to be a reader to be a writer. I was the kind of kid whose mother was always sending me outside to play, get fresh air. So I would stick a book in my shirt and climb up a tree where she couldn't find me and read.
Oh my God,
that's awesome. But I think you've got to be a reader first before you're a writer. I really think that's how it works.
Yeah.
And I stumbled into it. External MFA programs weren't created yet. So I simply saw some poems I liked in a journal that I just stumbled upon and tried to write like that. And what I wrote was nothing like the poems I was modeling on, but I never stopped. It was just like one foot went on the path and I've just kept going. I am in hiatus right now. I stopped writing a year ago when my husband had rotator cuff surgery and then the big incident. And I think it's going to take me a while. I think I wasn't expecting this to happen because I've always continued to write. But a number of my writer friends who are also widows said it takes at least a year, if not longer, before you can get back to writing. So I'm trying to be patient with myself. Ironically, I had a book come out with a good, with Pitt Poetry Series in late November 2019, which I wasn't able to launch, and I had readings set up all over the country. So I lost all of that at the same time I lost my husband. It's really been a dark time, and I've got to move through it somehow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah, we hope you get back around to writing. I can't even imagine that situation now. I mean, I it's hard for me to write if I have a hangnail. If something terrible happens, I mean, legitimately terrible happens to me, I don't know. I would be lost.
I'm finding my way somehow. Trying to stay connected without actually writing because I'm just not really ready to.
Yes.
Right. And then one day, who knows, you'll sit down
It'll start again.
You'll have a hard time getting up from the table. Maybe.
Maybe. I'm also in a more difficult situation because some of my best work I've done by having time at colonies. But now I'm the only parent to take our son back home weekends. So that's going to limit my ability to be away at a colony too. I can have the group home, keep him for one weekend, but I think if I did more than that, it would be pushing it. So my life is gonna just be more constricted, and that's just the way it is.
Right.
Right.
Make your own colony, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I've always written. I don't have to be at a colony, but when you're at a colony and they take care of you, there are more than 24 hours in each day. You get 48 hours in each day.
Amazing.
You gotta get that somebody to come in and make you breakfast, lunch, and
Make your
dinner.
meals. Exactly.
Barbara,
Most of my life
you
is
tell us more. I want to know more
spent
about
in
the
food
holiday
prep.
experience.
Right?
That's so great. Tanya, tell us, how did you start writing poetry? How did you get into it?
I think like it just yeah, that's a very interesting question, because I think like it's just like, as like I think all many of the writers there like start reading, and I think in Korea there is like a really big like a book set that you could buy and then read, and then it is all translation books, the word literature, and I was just like reading it, and then I was fantasizing it, and I start like write my own stories, and this is like a very interesting that I wrote in one of the interview. I don't know, I don't remember which one, but then same kind of question.
Yeah.
That in Korea, after summer school, winter vacation, summer vacation, you have to turn in the diary book. And when you're in school, and what did you do? Like, so you actually have to like turn in the diary book every day. And so what I did is like I have 2 diary books, one to turn in and then one for myself, right? So it's a 2 different diary books. So that's how I did it. And I think another part is in Korea, in school, there's a lot of contests like that, like writing contests, like art contests and stuff like that. So then you won. And I had like a 4th grader teacher who just like adores me, loves me, and she goes like, "You're such a great writer. You're such a great artist." You know what I mean? So then that was just like really encouraged. But then downside was I felt so sad that when I came to the United States, that I said, "Oh my goodness! Like now my dream's gonna be destroyed, because I thought to write in Korean you have to be in Korea, you gotta go to college there, study Korean literature." But I'm here, and also the second part is like, okay, I'm 18, like I'm here like learning ABC. How am I going to write in English, right? But I think it was turning point. It was, but I was start writing in Korean, but I felt like. And then I got published, but like I said, I'm living in America. I wanted to publish, right? In America. And then in English, and then I wanted to publish. I don't know what it is. But I think the turning point was when I went to MFA. Because that when I went to MFA, and then I have to write in English, I have to turn it in, and then there start having a lot of resources. I think that was what was. I didn't know any resources before, but now I have a resource, and then also coming back from Korea, where very strict like a school system. Here I am. To turning in deadline is kind of work for me. So they're gonna turn it in, and then I said, "Oh, okay, whatever." So that worked for me. So for me, the MFA program opened up my career, and then I was just like publishing it like that one, and then my friends, like I said, Tanya, I think like you should submit here. You should submit here. This support system, and then my friends. I think that was just like a key point. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think so many people, when they are become part of an MFA program, that's like one of the key parts of it. Like, how do I do this writer thing? You just start to meet people and make connections.
Yes.
You submitting starts to become just a habit, a very, very natural thing, and you just become part of this, very, ideally very, very welcoming community that helps you grow as a writer.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by this poetry license thing.
Yeah, that like we are so automatically family. And then when I talk about that story, so actually when you Google like my name, like Korean poets, and then my Korean name is there. Like so you have to be have who's a licensed Korean. They have all the Korean poets in
Call yourself
like
a poet.
like by alphabetical.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
Isn't it interesting?
That is really interesting. I love that. So it's like you need the stamp of approval, the poet, literally a poetic license.
Yeah, poetic license.
Great.
Yeah.
We have a question for you, Tanya, and then I have a question for Barbara after this. But John Chan Sacevedo has a question. He says, have you not written something because it will not translate well into, I guess, English, or maybe even into Korean? Have you ever like chosen not to write something or maybe needed to change it?
Right. It's sort of going along with that is too. It's like if you're writing something, whether it's originally in Korean or English, are you thinking already of the translation?
Oh gosh, that was just like it was really hard. Like because especially when I was in MFA, that like I have to constantly have to write in English, right?
Yeah.
And exactly. Thank you, John. Like that was I thought I was going nuts because when I'm writing and then I said, ooh, but if I write this word in Korean, what is that word can be? I don't have exactly equivalent words.
Right.
Tough. So then like it's the back of my mind, I go nuts, just write. And then especially like writing sonnet, how you translate sonnet into like the Korean, like you write in like you wrote, I did it, but like it doesn't really translate in Korean, So yes, like I had like so many traumatized in that part, and then even like Korean, especially like that is very interesting in especially also the role, because I'm a role of like a woman. I'm a woman. So when I write in Korean, because and then especially I came like early 80s. So like you still have like a stock in like what women should be or whatever. But when I was in college, like I was really mad at my roommate, right? So I wrote this poem called No Trespassing. You knock on my door before you come in, whatever. But when I translate it into Korean, and then when I read it, how it sounds go, 그대 문을 두들겨 주세요. I said, what? So like, and then, but another part is like, if I say, you, like, the 문을 열고 들어오세요. Like, if I read it in Korean like that, and then they say like, that women, no, Korean women, you're not supposed to write like that angry. You're supposed to be write about the flower, nice thing, so the role changes. So there's another poem.
There's a cultural layer. Yeah.
So many cultural layers. So that what I did, like I changed the gender so that I use as a monologue as a man's voice. And then someone read that poem, and then he was crying reading like at the gallery, and then he read like it was about study about the immigrant man's story, and then I wrote in man's voice, and then he cried, and then he didn't know that I was 20-some years old girl who wrote that poem. Anyway, so that was very affecting him. But if he knew that it was a girl, then it would have been a different story. So back to John, yes, it was really hard. But what I did, actually, there's another ebook, Korean ebook that I have in Korea. So it's an ebook. And when I wrote that poem, and then you know what? It's really, really hard. Because I get like I just finished writing 2 poems in Korean because I got request and then submission, and now what I do, and then it just changes so hard, like it just the Korean emotion, bring in Korean emotion to write in Korean, and then to switch myself to English is not easy. So I have like 7-8 poems that which I wrote in Korean and then publish it in ebook.
Right,
That
right.
poem that is not still translated, because just like I think like it just go back to the Barbara. I think it's different, but Barbara said I'm not ready to write. And so I think some poems, now that I give up freedom to write whatever I want to write, either I wanted to write just English, then just write English, and then not thinking about so much about the translation.
Like, how do I
And then-
translate the words
Yes,
and also
before I
the
did it.
culture, like,
Yeah.
so that people will feel it the way I am
Exactly.
intending it, you know, to be felt or received. That is so interesting, Tanya.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing those stories with us and sharing that experience. It is so interesting, and
It is interesting. I'm
yeah.
interested myself too.
yeah.
I said like, what?
Cultural experience is, you know,
Yeah.
you're in these two worlds, really. It's so fascinating. You know, before we get to our famous last question, Barbara, you mentioned how much you loved colonies, and I'm dying to hear about maybe your favorite writer colony experience, if you can think of.
Aside from Hail Bop, which sounds like a.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, I've only been in America to the one place, the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts in Sweetbriar, Virginia. It's an easy drive. It's very much like Escape, where I am in Pennsylvania, except it's nicer. There's nicer weather. And it's been a wonderful place. I started going in 1990, and I think I've gone 19 or 20 times. So I've just started having because, you know, I was raising 3 children, one of whom was severely disabled. And once I had that first stay there, I thought, if I can come back again, and if I can plan to come back again every 18 months, I can save my own life and be a writer. And so I really kind of did that. But they also, it's hard to say what's my favorite, because they own a studio in the southwest of France. And I've been there twice. And was that fabulous? That was
after this.
very fabulous. Yeah, and I've also had 2 residencies. I had 2 residencies at the Tyrone Guthrie Centre in Annaghmakerrig, Ireland. It's at the northern part of the Republic of Ireland, right below the border with the north. And that was also a really fabulous experience.
That is so awesome, Barbara. And did you have to apply to these colonies?
Yeah, I've met so many interesting people at them, not necessarily other writers. I have the best conversations with painters and musicians. It's nice to talk to somebody outside your own field. It's just a very rich and fertile time. Yeah. And they're all over the country. There's all kinds of colonies, famous ones, not so famous ones. You could create your own by going away with a few friends to a cabin somewhere and just writing, and then you're sharing work at night. I mean, you can make your own.
I love that, Barbara. I'm really inspired, because I hear about colonies here and there, and I'm like, that sounds absolutely amazing. But you know, I haven't really necessarily followed through about really looking into them or applying to anything. I'm fully inspired now. It sounds absolutely wonderful. I love hearing about your experiences.
You also really have to plan ahead. Like in October, I guess, they'll be taking applications for 2022. So, I mean, you really have to plan ahead to do this, to do it. Yeah, and then make your space and time to go. But it's like once you're really delving deep into work, more work comes out. So it is really pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
That is so great. Thank you so much, Barbara. Chris, let's get to our famous last double question.
Do it.
And I'm pointing this way.
Yes, indeed. Okay, 2-part question. First part is what we call Pearl of Wisdom. So what would be your pearl of wisdom, your advice to somebody who imagine them coming to you, which they probably have in the past, and saying, how do I become a better writer? The other part of the question is a book recommendation. Anything. So Pearl of Wisdom, Tanya, Pearl of Wisdom.
Just like I think like you just like have to give you permission to write bad writing.
Right.
Because we
Yes.
always want to have
Yes.
like a good writing, but why not just like write a bad writing? So I think just keep writing, move your hand, move your pen. I mean, nowadays we're using a lot of computer, but I actually what I do is whenever I wake up in the morning, I write longhand, like 15 minutes. Whatever comes, it's called morning pages. That
Morning pages, sure.
Yeah, so I do that,
You're
and it makes all difference.
Yeah.
Just like your dreams, like you're like writing shopping list, and then so through that a lot I like lead to a lot of like listing poem. It
Right.
gets like a listing poem, and then when I did the workshop, like just write like 5 minutes like on the list, and then it's just like amazing. Within 5 minutes they just write. And the book recommendation somehow, like when Barbara was saying about the loss of her husband, and then I just thought like Joan Didion's magical thinking came up to my mind.
I just reread it. Yeah. It had a
So-
whole other layer of meaning reading it now. Yeah.
So somehow I just like when you said it, and then I just came that word to me.
Yeah, I thought of it too.
Yeah, you did too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tanya. Barbara?
I'll just amplify what Tanya said. I mean, I also write in longhand first. I really think there's something about hand to hand to heart. And there's something about the physicality of it that I have to do quite a few drafts longhand before I ever go to the computer. And, what you were also talking about, give yourself permission. Anna Lamott calls that the shitty first draft. And I think that's really important to allow yourself to do it. You don't have to send these things out for publication, but allow yourselves to write them. And I think that a lot of my best work has come out of really terrible first drafts of really awful prose. It wasn't poetry, but you have to write your way through to get to it. My really one pearl of wisdom my one pearl of wisdom would be to read more poetry. Just read poetry. If you want to write poetry, you've got to read it. And we don't have enough readers of poetry.
Yeah.
And maybe the book I would recommend, just because her name just came up, is Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird. How do you write? Or her brother was doing this long project, and she said, just break it into small pieces and write it bird by bird. And it's just full of wonderful writing advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barbara. And thank you so much once again, Barbara Crooker and Tanya Kohang, for reading with us tonight and for sharing your evening with us. It's been absolutely amazing. One more round of applause, Chris.
Bravo. Tanya.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a total honor. You're both absolutely amazing. Everybody out there in the audience, thank you for joining us. You got to go and buy their books. You got to go follow them on social media. And Barbara, Tanya, I hope we can have you back again sometime soon. It was just an absolute pleasure being with you this evening. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And everyone, have a good night. And Chris, next week we'll be back with
Beth Tillman, Lowell Peterson.
Fabulous. All right. Good night, everybody.